All right, good evening, listeners. Welcome to Motley Crude, your favorite Warhammer the Old World podcast. I'm Kevin, and this evening with me, I've got a guy seriously trying to convince me to buy into Trench Crusade. Andrew, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. And then with us this evening, we've also got the guy who's probably already planning out a Wild Hunt army for when the Wood Elves come out. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. So this evening, listeners, for you guys, we're going to be talking about the news, essentially everything that was previewed at Adepticon. So we'll just be circling back and looking at what's coming for Beastmen, what we know about the Armies of Infamy, what new models are coming, like the rules, all that kind of stuff. We'll be doing the same thing for Wood Elves as well as for Grand Cathay at the end. So before we get to all of that, though, let's talk about what's new in our hobby. Ryan, let's start with you. What's new with you this week?
I played a game yesterday into
Nice.
Ogres. It went well until it didn't, when suddenly everything died.
Okay.
So that was fine. But yeah, no, it was a good time. We had down here in Kingston, we had 3 old world games going on the same night here at the staff college. So it's a good time.
Nice. Good stuff. And then so you lost the Ogres one. Was he trying the Renegade pack?
He's used it before. I can't remember if he was using it again this time because like none of the things that occurred in the game interacted with
Sure.
the Renegade pack, and I didn't bother asking.
Okay. Yeah, and the changes for Ogres are pretty minor anyways. You get any building or painting done?
No, I've been
All
too
right.
busy with work.
All good, all good. Andrew, what's new on your end, man?
Not too much. I was kind of just plugging away at this Gene Stealer cult faction for Necromunda still. I'm on my last 5 models out of the 24.
Nice. Your batch paint of 24?
Yeah, my batch painted 24. It seemed like a good idea at the start.
Yikes.
I ended up breaking it up into smaller batches of 5.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think I could do a batch paint of 24 either. It's a bit rough. Did you play any games of anything since we talked last time?
No, I have no time. And now Ottawa's going to the fucking playoffs. So
Yeah.
I still don't have any time.
So you're gonna be working for a few more weeks for sure, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they lose quick.
Hopefully, yeah. Best case you'll only have 2 games to cover.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. So on my end, the week started off well, or the period between episodes, anyways, started off well from a hobby perspective. Like the first that first week there, I got that unit of 5 Marauder Horsemen, basically all painted. I think there's like a few little details on the last guy in the unit, but essentially all painted. I also played 2 games that week. Ryan forgot to mention, but I actually played Ryan with his City State of Nuln into Chaos Dwarfs. I was trying the Renegade pack, just trying new builds for my faction there. I ran something of a flying circus into Ryan, which was definitely a different play style and a lot of fun. And then Ryan, as is as always happens with you, your Warhol dice just abandoned you and things went sideways pretty quickly. But that was fun. And then I played Danny also. In the same week, Danny was playing Krace, his Kracian Warhost, and I played the same kind of wacky flying circus list, which was also a lot of fun. And unfortunately for Danny, another win for the Chaos Dwarfs. So that was like the first week, and then we had the worst plague I've ever seen in my house. My son brought something terrible back from daycare, so I've just been basically dying for the last 7 days, and recently recovered. So I'll hopefully start hobbying up a little bit more over the next few days. So that's what my week looked like. So just before we go into the massive news segment for this evening, Ryan, you want to cover some of the upcoming events?
Absolutely. So we have Square based in real life at X Planet Games in Toronto or in Mississauga on 19 to 20 April, Easter weekend. We have Can't Hammer Team Tournament, which is currently maxed out. Did you guys find a fourth to fill that hole?
No,
yet?
I'm gonna make a quick sales pitch when you're done.
Okay. So we got that. 24, 25 May here in Ottawa, we have the Canadian Tabletop Championships Grand Tournament, which is being run by our friend Danny. 7 to 8 June, also in Ottawa, we have the Ottawa Old World Grand Tournament being run by me. And then 14 June out in Oshawa, there's a tournament called Summer Smash. And 23, 24 August, correct me if I'm wrong, should be Capital City Bloodbath, Andrew's big event.
Yes.
And then 13, 14 September, the Abyss in Montreal is hosting a tournament as well.
Which we may end up going to as a crew.
Yes. Yeah, I might not be able to make Bloodbath depending on some of my wife's work schedule stuff, so I would definitely go to Montreal if I couldn't.
Warhammer weekend. Awesome.
Might go anyway, but
might do both. Yeah. Good stuff. So as Ryan was saying, reaching out to the community here a little bit. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make CHTT on the 3rd and the 4th of May, the team tournament. One of my kids is getting an operation 2 days before on the 1st of May, so I'm going to need to be hands-on at home for that. So if we have somebody in the community who'd like to step in and just take my spot, that would be great. Your ticket would already be paid for, so just reach out to us. That would be really appreciated. We've tried a lot of people already, and you know how it is with people's schedules, and also we had a guy lined up. But unfortunately, all the armies he owned were armies that were already on the team, so it couldn't really work out. So if you have some free time on the 3rd and the 4th of May, please reach out, and we'll try to give you my spot. That'd be really appreciated. Okay, so let's move on to the main topic for this evening. Exciting stuff. All of the news related to Adepticon. So before we kick into any specific stuff, Andrew, what are your thoughts overall on everything that was revealed? And then, what are your thoughts on the fact that we got 3 armies at once?
I think everything is pretty positive. Like, we knew Wood Elves and Beastmen were coming, and given how every other release has been, we also kind of knew that it'd just kind of be everything that existed in the past, plus a few characters, which is what we got. And then obviously we also got Cathay, which was sort of teased back in February. So it's cool that we saw that as well. I wasn't really expecting to get all of this sort of deluge of release announcements like this. I was only expecting maybe like the next army, not the next 3 armies, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even just like, here's next army plus a few teasers for the other 2. They literally just here's everything. Here's all you're getting. Like, it's a pretty crazy announcement. I don't think they've done anything like this before for any game system, let alone
Agreed.
The weird little niche one that's Old World is for them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I can't imagine a full 3 product lines being released for any game system or previewed all at once like that. Understanding that they're old sculpt, like a lot of them are old sculpts coming back, but still. Yeah. So yeah, on my end, Andrew, it's similar to what you said there in terms of I'm really pumped by the preview. Actually, it was also cool to see the Old World be the highlight of the preview show, and just basically steal all the stage time with all the cool stuff. Certainly, both in volume of models shown off, and then just all the new stuff, an entirely new army essentially. Usually I'm pretty excited when we get Empire or Warriors of Chaos or what have you as a faction to see what's coming back and what the Armies of Infamy are like and stuff. So again, getting 3 at once is just is like a Christmas when you're not expecting you're going to be getting Christmas. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
I agree with you guys. I thought it was really cool, as you may have heard during the last episode while I was live watching the reveal.
Yeah.
Like, I was stunned by the fact that not only did we get 3 releases all smashed in one preview, but additionally, it was the opener. Like,
Yeah.
I was sitting there waiting for the stream to start. Stream starts immediately. Old World. I thought it was going to be like near the end, or like, there'd be some marquee 40K related thing. But the
Sure.
fact they just launched with uh, Old World and then also just announced a ton of stuff was wild.
Yeah. Here's us blasting through 2 entire armies in 5 minutes because we've got an entirely new army to show you. Yeah. Yeah, no, fully agreed. And Ryan, going back to you, like Andrew mentioned earlier, they basically showed off everything that we were expecting, basically for the next little while here. What do you think, Ryan? Like the pacing on the release of these 3 armies is going to be like? Do you think this is all 2025 stuff, or do you think they're going to stretch this out some more?
So until this happened, I'd have very much been of the opinion that like Wood Elves or Beastmen would have been in like the next couple months, and then the other one would be later in the summer, and then Cathay was going to be like January next year, maybe. But given, unless they've changed the paradigm of how their release announcements go, typically they show what's coming in the next 1 to 2 quarters.
Yeah.
At these releases, because they're spaced out, quarterly throughout the year, effectively. So, and after the kind of like anemic one that was at LVO, I honestly don't know. Like, I feel like we're gonna get Wood Elves and Beastmen like rapid fire near each other, because both of those are not comparatively like very large releases. So that would take us April now. Say one comes in May and the other one comes in June or July.
Yeah.
And then Cathay sits in a weird spot for me. Like, I think it's either going to be the marquee thing that's releasing this summer, because right now there isn't that thing on the agenda. Like, normally you have like big 40K edition change, big AOS edition change. We're in that 3rd year where they don't have something. There's rumors of Horus Heresy 3.0, but
Exactly. Yeah.
there's no announcement. There's nothing leading up to that, or any sort of implied hype. And this reveal that just happened covers basically from now until September in their typical marketing cycle. So Cathay might just be the big thing that they drop in August to get their, tri-annual sales boost. Quite
Yeah.
possibly. I don't know. But yeah, I basically I see everything inclusive of Cathay being out by September. In my opinion. That's all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Andrew, do you agree with that, or what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry. I'm not so sure. Again, we've never seen them reveal this much stuff at once for one game system. So like this might just be the year for us. Like I can see Wood Elves and Beastmen for sure being out by like August. But my guess is Cathay would be sort of like that October, November sort of pre-Christmas window would be my guess.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I agree with you, Andrew, in that this is kind of uncharted waters for us. I can't see them dragging this out too slowly, though. Like, it seems to be, and I don't know the first thing about marketing, but it seems to me like it's poor marketing to be like, here's this amazing shiny new army that you all want to get your hands on. It's going to release a year and a half from now, so like that wouldn't make any sense, right? So I don't see them dragging things out for too long. I agree with the two of you that I think Beastmen and Wood Elves are going to be pretty rapid fire. While we were preparing for this episode, I was looking at the two product lines, and they're not the most massive product lines either out of all the old world factions. I think out of the core factions, they're probably the two smallest actually. So I think I kind of agree with your timeline, Ryan, in terms of Beastmen, like end of April, May, early May timeframe, and then I'd say Wood Elves like around June to leave that big open summer slot for whatever they're going to be doing to close or to pump up their financial year. I think there's enough smoke around Heresy 3.0, let's call it, for that to be a thing, but time will tell. And then I don't think Cathay on its own, I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I don't think on its own it's big enough for that summer slot. So I would see it more as like a September, October timeframe for its release.
You think Horus Heresy, that's even more niche than Old World,
yeah, but
is gonna meet that?
Yeah,
but it's something.
Yeah, it's
like it's still a new edition. Like realistically, as Old World fans, even if you're super stoked for this, like how many people are just gonna start a new army to begin with? Like I think the models are sick. Maybe the playstyle's cool, but because I have other projects or other armies on the go, I don't see myself getting into this faction right away. And I don't think a lot of people, like, I'm sure there will be like day one adopters, but it's not going to be some like sell like hotcakes release like a new edition would be, right?
Yeah.
That's
and
fair.
then and you're right, Ryan, that like the Horus Heresy is an even smaller game system than Old World is. However, if you do a new edition of that thing, like all 18 primary armies use the same box and use the same rule set.
I thought you were going to say all 18 players.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe also. But yeah, so all 18 main factions will use whatever comes in that launch box, that rumored, I think it's Mark II armor launch box. So yeah, I think it's a small system, but that box can sell to a lot of people. I remember the sales were allegedly pretty good the last time they took a kick at that can. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what.
I just think that they're gonna suffer a lot of sourness. Like you remember when Dwarves got announced last year,
Yeah,
and then it took them 6 months to release them, and they were the
exactly.
only faction that was previewed for fewer or for more than 3 months.
Yeah.
And it lost them a lot of goodwill on that front. So I feel like it would be real weird if they're like, here's Cathay, and then in November you get them and everyone's like, oh, you previewed that 8 months ago, I moved on with my life. It's the same thing that really killed Legions Imperialis.
Yeah, you're right.
There was hype, and then they released it too late, and everyone stopped caring.
Yeah, you're entirely right, and that's why I started with, I can't see them dragging this out too long, and that's what I was trying to get at. So maybe you're right, Ryan, and maybe they drop them in the summer also. I mean, the Venn diagram of people who are playing Horus Heresy and who want to buy Cathay is probably not that big that they're going to cannibalize too many sales anyways, right? So maybe it's a summer release too. We'll see. So in a few months.
All sorts of fun.
All sorts of things are possible. Okay, let's move on to the first army that was previewed, and that's going to be Beastmen. So usually, listeners, we spend quite a bit of time going through all the stuff that's going to come out with the army, but it's probably going to take us too long to do that 3 times in a row. So I'm just going to quickly go through there, and basically, if it's in the Beastmen army book, it's coming back. Is what it boils down to. Of note, though, there's going to be some models that were released for Beastmen in AOS that are going to be backwards, coming back towards the old world, even though they were never released for the game system for Warhammer Fantasy Battles in the past. It was like a Beast Lord and a Great Bray Shaman. that are coming back. And then in terms of new additions to the range, you have Kralmaw, which is the named character that we had previewed at the previous preview. The Praeton is also coming back in remastered form, and then we're getting Goros Warhoof coming back as the other named character for Beastmen. So looking at that release, Ryan, why don't you start us off with just quickly what's in the battalion box, and then what are your thoughts on it?
Okay. So, Battalion Box has Gores and Ungors, and I think it's the thing that makes a Cygor or Gorgon.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so there's a lot of Gores. They're, incredibly iconic Beastmen models, and like they're like kind of derpy old plastic sculpts, but at the same time, much like Skaven, like Beastmen of this visualization, it's like a very Games Workshop unique fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Until Eragon came out and kind of merged them with orcs in that story setting. Whatever. Anyway, I'm not old. And so anyway, it's cool. Everything in the box is very Beastmen. It's the things you need to field a normal Beastmen army. It's also things I already own way too much of. Don't need more of. But yeah, I like it.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on the baton?
I mean, it's nothing special. It's kind of what you expected. A bunch of Gores, some Ungors. It's cool that they threw in the Gorgon kit, because the easy addition would have been just like best of Gores as well. Keep it all infantry, but you got to one of those centerpiece big models, which is nice. You'll probably run the Gorgon because he's pretty disgusting when he actually makes it to combat.
Which is not a given, yeah.
Not a given. That's why you run like 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a cool kit. It's what you'll need. You got, you can make your Ungors as skirmishers. You are forced to take at least some sort of gore unit in the baseline list. So, it'll get you going.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And I think on my end, I think it's one of the better battalion boxes in that everything in here you'll sort of use asterisks with the Gorgon there, but definitely the Gores, as you mentioned, Andrew, you need to take one and a unit of them. And beyond that, there's a lot of competitive Beastman builds that use a big brick of Gores, usually with a Doom Bull inside. So that's a very viable thing in game. And I think you get 30 in the box, so you can do whatever size of Gore unit you need for that. So that's great. I think the Ungors are also a completely fine choice out of which to build your Beastman army. I played I don't know, maybe 2 months ago now, a competitive build that was just a massive poison shooting block of Ungors, which also worked decently well, actually very well. So yeah, I think you can use the contents of this box, definitely. The Gorgon is also decent, a decent piece you could bring. The Cygor, I think you're probably going to leave at home, but yeah, so I think it's one of the better battalion boxes because everything in here is usable to some degree. I'm approaching it from the competitive standpoint, but if you're looking at this from slightly less competitive, I'm playing with my buddies at home, then even better. You're definitely using everything that's in this box, so it's good stuff. Moving on here, we do have a remastered kit coming back and a new unit coming to the old world. That's the Praeton. What are your thoughts on this bad boy, Andrew?
I don't know. I think it looks kind of derpy.
Yeah.
This was old Forge World model. It was in the Monsters Arcanum book, which is one of the books that Forge World put out for 8th. That it had a bunch of monsters in it. I thought it looked stupid then. I still think it looks kind of stupid, although this paint job is better than the one they had back then. I guess we'll have to see what the rules are like. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of funny looking.
Yeah, I think its big rules thing was that it's some sort of corrupted great stag from the Wood Elves that just hates itself so much that when it gets damaged in combat, it adds the enemy's like combat res to its own for the purposes of calculating who won combat. So I could see something like that making its way to the old world because it's like a super iconic rule for it.
So it's like an emo deer.
Yeah, with wings and like
Yes.
it's derpy as all get out. Yeah, I think it's not my favorite sculpt, that's for sure. I always find like the sideways bases to be kind of jarring to look at. I think this is probably 100 millimeter wide by 50 deep if I'm looking at the looking at the image right there. But I mean, if this thing has a decent set of stats on it, like a decent stat line, a fast flying monster in Beastmen is not something terrible to add to the roster. I know that they already have a few there with like the cockatrice and stuff, but one that actually functions and is useful, it would be a good addition to the army, which I've mentioned several times on this show. I think is a bit of a slower army. What are your thoughts on the Praeton, Ryan?
Yeah, it looks like a wyvern donkey deer. Um, I I got nothing. Like, yeah, I'm sure it took great skill to sculpt it, but it just looks unappealing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's yeah.
but like, it's nice that the Beastmen got something back,
Yeah.
and like something. That's all.
Yeah, they also get a new sculpt, which is cool, like the Kralma, where we've talked about him in the previous episode, so we're not going to cover him again. So that's cool. And then they're getting Goros Warhoof back, who's a pretty iconic kit, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about some rules stuff. So I was mentioning a second ago, Kralma, the Prophet of Ruin, which is the new Beastman character that has like a little familiar with him. So Ryan, you want to go through some of the rules hints or drops that they gave us on the stream for this guy?
Yeah. So apparently he's a level 4 caster. Shock.
Yeah.
Who can see the future and whose familiar can be placed on the battlefield to cast a new spell called Devolving Spirit. So I mean, the fact that he's level 4 caster is cool. My special character wizard's a level 3 caster, so
Yeah.
um, like that's nice. His familiar actually doing something other than looking dope is also neat. Um, and I'm sure Devolving Spirit make I feel like it somehow affects leadership. It sounds like something that makes other people sad.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a debuff.
Like whatever it is, it's
Yeah.
not good. Um, but yeah, like being able to, I don't know, like Slan Skink Priest route your spell through your familiar or something would be pretty sweet. I got no
Yep.
other real guess. And like the
Yep.
whole see the future thing, it's either going to interact with going first or deployment in some way. Redeploying a unit, getting a plus to the going first roll or something.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think when we talk about one of the Armies of Infamies later, where I think this guy slots in, modifying who goes first is probably going to come in handy. That's a good thought I hadn't even thought of. Okay, Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to speculate just based on like here's some things vaguely described.
That's
I
the whole
think the
point of
model's cool.
speculation.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not good at that, I guess. I think the model's cool though. If you are able to cast through your familiar, I mean, Dark Elves already have an item like that. But it's cool that it's more than a one use in theory, I guess. Um, yeah, Devolving Spirit. Maybe it's like an old Dreaded 13th spell where you got to do um, a leadership test, and then if you fail, depending on how
Yeah.
much you fail by, it just creates that many gores or something because you're like devolving the people into beastmen or something.
Yeah,
That would
or
be
Chaos Spawn. Yeah.
Or Chaos Spawn, which would be way more scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see more. Hopefully, we start getting some of the Warcom articles about it soon.
Yeah, hopefully. One other tiny thing that was mentioned is that, like, just from a lore perspective, this guy's whole shtick is that he's getting the Wild Hunt led by Orion's chasing him around, and Orion can't really get a grip on Kralmaw because of his future seeing abilities. So that's pretty interesting stuff. I find that just from a design space perspective, using the familiar for something in game, whether that's casting through, or I think it's actually the familiar cast evolving spirits, but we'll find out soon enough. Is really interesting. There's some really great familiars with the new models that have come with the old world that are probably being underutilized right now. Like the Three Empire Wizards have some sick familiars that would just I think we'd all benefit if those were actually used for something. So yeah, and then the other thought I have is having a named character as a level 4 just helps a lot more. We don't know what the construction of the armies, like the army lists, obviously for the two armies of infamy will be. But if you have a situation where you can't get a level 4 caster, for instance, but being able to take the named character to sort of fill in that spot, like you could do a little bit with Galrock and like Wolves of the Sea, for instance, is also an interesting way to patch some potential issues. So I like it. Yeah, I think this guy. Yeah, we'll talk about it a bit later. Okay. The another cool thing that was mentioned, Andrew, is that you could take a herdstone in your army. Any thoughts on what that might do?
Block line of sight. I don't know. It's a fucking train piece. No, my guess would be is if you're in a certain radius of it, you probably get some sort of buffs. Maybe like an upscaled version of Frenzy on your units that are close to it, or vice versa. Like if enemy models get too close to it, it might be sort of like a leadership debuff, as like it's really scary and kind of like saps the moral of the army coming towards it. That'd be my guess. Considering the Kralmaw guy is a level 4 and you can take level 4s in the army, the easy answer would be like, oh, it's a +1 year casting, but I don't
Yeah.
think with their access to level 4s pretty easily, I don't think it's really needed. And that's kind of more of a shtick of like elves or like undead and stuff. So I don't really see beastmen having an ability like that. Those would be my
So
guesses.
yeah, so like I agree with you. It definitely has some sort of debuffing or buffing ability to it. I cheated a little bit and I looked at the last time that we had the Herdstone in Warhammer Fantasy. I think it left in 7th. It was there in 6th and 7th edition. It was like an upgrade you could buy for your army, and in those days it gave you an extra. You generated an extra power dice. So like the +1 to cast that you mentioned there, Andrew, would probably be like my safe bet. However, as like an ex AOS player, the Herdstone was obviously an AOS, and in that game, it spread. It had like an aura that gave like an armor piercing aura, basically that increased the armor piercing of all the weapons of your own army inside that sort of bubble that grew every turn, and I think that'd be a really cool. Cool kind of effect to have in the old world. Ryan, any thoughts?
All that's coming to me would be like basically the ability to bring an arcane monolith you get to place yourself. Just like how Charse and Wood Elves get to place a forest, you get an arcane monolith. But
Yeah.
that's all I got.
Yeah, that will work. That's cool stuff. And it's also just like I think nobody's mentioned it yet, but obviously a really cool hobby opportunity to build some sick herdstone for the army. And GW has a model
Well,
for it too, so yeah.
well, did they say they're re-releasing the model for it?
No, they're not. They're not, but you could probably find it lying around somewhere.
Oh, that sucks.
Um One other thing is so they mentioned during the stream that there was going to be a new lore of magic coming along with the Beastmen, Primal Magic. Obviously, I think we can all guess that that's where the new spell, Devolving Spirit, comes in. But we have no other information at this point. So I don't know. Unless you guys have any comments, we can move on to something maybe a little bit more interesting. Okay.
Nah, I got nothing.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
only
All right.
comment would be like, how do you differentiate it from beast magic?
Yeah, that's
Like-
the yeah. Sorry, what was that, Ryan?
No, I was just gonna say, like, I got nothing. Like, maybe it's more of like a mutation-y focused.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, don't make sense. I think it's going to be like obviously the best example is what they did with troll magic. Like it's its entire lore. It buffs a specific part of the army, like the trolls, obviously in that case. So it's called primal magic, and then this is a good transition. The first Army of Infamy we're going to be talking about is the wild herds. So I think there's like a good synergy potentially here, and maybe that lore of magic fits with that herd with the wild herds there. So Army of Infamy #1 is called the Wild Herds. We don't have much info here, but so we've seen new models coming back, and then new models like the Praeton. We have maybe some guesses on rules and stuff. So Ryan, I'll start with you. Any thoughts on what the Wild Herd, entails as an Army of Infamy? Like, do you think what's its specific skew like? Any units or characters that you would see tagging along with it? That kind of stuff.
So, a while back, passingly, there was a rumor that one of the Armies of Infamy was going to be kind of like Centaur, Razor Gore themed, like almost like a cavalry centric Beastmen army.
Okay.
And then coupled that with the fact that there is also a Centaur character that's being re-released, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Goros Warhoof. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I don't know Beastmen name.
Yeah, the father of all Centaurs. Yeah.
There we go. So my gut instinct is that's not going to be part of the other one that we're going to talk about, and that a wild herd tracks with, a bunch of drunk centaurs and toad pigs and, various monsters and whatnot, but like, something that's got less hoof gores
Sure.
and more like fast things and weird mutated shambling monsters and whatnot. So that's kind of where I think that's going to go.
So kind of like the nomadic Wa of the Beastmen.
Effectively, but
Yeah.
drunker.
which sounds like a party I want to be a part of. Cool. Andrew, what are your thoughts on what's in the Wild Herd?
Given we're getting like Goros and the Perryton back, my guess would be, as Ryan said, sort of like a Centaur / like your monster mash list. So you probably see like Centaurs and Razor Gores as your Razor Gores, the Pumbaa pigs.
Yeah.
As like your core, and then maybe a few chariots in special, but then like a bigger allotment in your special that you can take a bunch of like Jabber Slice and Cockatrices and the Perryton and stuff like that. I think you're gonna see like a weird monster list.
Yeah, that's the direction I was definitely going in, Andrew, when I first looked at it. Like I hadn't thought of the let's call it not nomadic Wa Centaur chariot herd that Ryan is talking about. I thought Wild Herd just spoke to me of like a monster mash list, which we don't really have any monster mash archetypes really in Old World. So that would be really cool. When I was sort of envisioning it, I thought Kralmaw would fit in here, and the reason why is so in the first preview that we got of Kralmaw, he was mentioned as being like the acolyte of Morgur the Shadowgave, who's like the super beast he's the super like chaos spawny type guy there for Beastmen. So that would kind of make sense if he was going in, if Kralmaw's heading in that vein, that he would be associated with like all the monsters on the Beastmen roster. So that kind of made sense to me. And then the tie-in of primal magic with that guy and all the monsters and spawn and what have you, sort of all kind of narratively made sense in my head. But when I heard Ryan there with the wild herd being led just a bunch of drunk Centaurs on an absolute fucking bash running around the forests of the old world led by Goros Warhoof, that also definitely tracks. So that's another good option. I would still like to see like a Monster Mash skew, and then what Ryan was talking about in terms of seeing the future and having Kralmaw in this Army of Infamy, like potentially impacting who goes first, giving your Gorgons a chance to actually make it into combat, and all the other wacky monsters that are available to Beastmen just piling in there, I think would be super would be cool. I'm not sure how good it would be, but it would be definitely cool to see on the tabletop. So that's how I kind of envisioned Wild Herds. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of those two. So we'll see. The next one though, I think we all know what that's going to be. So Army of Infamy number 2 is called the Minotaur Blood Herds. Again, we don't have much info here, but any thoughts on this one? Let's start with Andrew, just based on the name, what you think this is going to skew into, any potential units or characters or whatever that you'd like to see with this army.
Well, clearly it's going to be a Minotaur-based list. We'll probably see, hopefully, some sort of like Minotaur Shaman for your caster. Minotaurs will probably be your core, and then there'll probably be like an updated sort of special, more elite type of Minotaur using the same kit, obviously, or like Kip Ashes. And then you might see something like Gorgons in there as well, because they're sort of the same, but then very limited on like everything else. So probably not, you won't see like a lot of the other monsters, maybe giants, and like a lot of the gore and like chariots and those type of things won't be available. Like I think it'll be a more restrictive list, and then you'll just get like different types of minotaurs.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
a
makes
crazy minotaur chariot. That'd be fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean it's a flat surface, right? You could drop a minotaur on one of those for sure. Yeah, so I'm incredibly excited for this Army of Infamy. I think all three of us are actually pretty excited for this Army of Infamy. Like if this is in any way playable, I think I'm definitely making a Minotaur Bloodherd as an army, just because they're just the coolest thing running around, right? I was kind of expecting like an actual character to go along with this army, like the Brass Bull or whatever coming back. That would have been amazing. We may still get a profile without a model. I don't know, but yeah. So just in terms of pure wish listiness here, I definitely agree with Andrew. I think you can make a really good Minotaur army if you have some sort of Minotaur caster, like call it the shaman or what have you. Some sort of more elite, heavily armored Minotaurs would be amazing. And then I would also take, just like to fill out core. I know you could take Minotaurs in core there, but like some just, I don't know, the they're all hot-headed because obviously, but like just the youth, the crazy impetuous youth of the Minotaur tribe there, that are like more lightly armed and armored, but just are faster and cheaper for the points, just to sort of round out the herd there, and I'd be pretty happy. If you give me Centaurs and Goros to go in there too, like I thought that's where he would fit in that model. I think they would fit in well with the army. And Andrew, you're right with Gorgons definitely fitting in there. And I think like from a lore perspective, I'll need to go brush up on my Gorgon knowledge, but I think there's also like a lore tie-in between Gorgons and Minotaurs too. So yeah, Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Blood Herd?
So I'm pretty sure you and I re-encountered each other like just over a year ago in January or February after this game came out.
Yeah.
We played our first game, and then our next conversation was, so what if there was an army of minotaurs?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
I love this idea, like Ogre and Theriodons all day
Yeah.
from AOS. Just so many minotaurs. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be
Yep.
huge.
Yep.
And there's definitely a link between the Gorgon and I think even the Centaur, because they, like, visually they're just really big minotaur.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I imagine those will be there. I imagine this will be the army that's got the more restrictive construction.
100%.
So it'll be like your cores, like minotaurs, and like like weird stuff, and you've got, you know, Doombull, Gorebull, maybe a minotaur wizard of some kind. That just repurposes an existing model. I don't know. Um, I did love the idea of Minotaur Chariot, although my brain went in the complete opposite direction, and it was Minotaurs pulling a chariot with a third Minotaur on it.
Nice. Like a Doom Bull riding the getting pulled along.
Just a Doom Bull being pulled along by two other Minotaurs.
Yeah. I mean, if we have dwarf shield bearers, like, yeah.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
But yes, just I think it's going to be a very restrictive army, like Troll Horde or something like that. But it's going to give us some things like Minotaurs that can take heavy armor or something weird,
Yeah.
so that you can make a cool army out of it, and then you just run at stuff and murder it.
Yep. Yeah. Let's just GW, please make sure this is the war host of Krace Army of Infamy and not the Sea Guard Patrol Army of Infamy, please, or Garrison. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Really looking forward to this one for sure. Okay, let's see how quickly we all go out and buy a bunch of Minotaurs now.
Well, that
Okay,
was, that was
you,
my
I already
next
own
army
6.
anyway.
You have 6, yeah? How many do you have, Andrew?
I bought the Avatars of War STLs. I was just waiting to go to my printer. I was waiting for the book to drop first.
So are all 3 of us gonna get a Minotaur army? That'd be amazing.
Well, that was gonna be my next army anyway. Like, I have a list where it's like 2 Gorgons, a big like Death Star of Minotaurs, and then just like Chariots and Razor Gores.
Nice.
Minotaurs and Dragon Ogres.
Oh yeah,
Yikes.
and there's Dragon Ogres in there too. 2 blocks of them. So that was like my list. It was just like a big monster list. And then they announced the Minotaur list. I'm like, well, I'll wait. I won't make this other list until I see what this is.
Sure. Yeah, sure. That makes sense. I have I think only 3 Ogroids, but I have 2 of the Myrmidons, like the cool ass gladiator characters that they have, and I also have the caster. I forget what he's called exactly, but yeah. Okay, cool. Let's move on to Wood Elves, which are also kind of an interesting army. So, quick overview of what's returning here. Basically, everything that's in the book, with the exception of the trees. So, Dryads are not getting re-released, and I think Treekin are not getting re-released. But we're getting a very old returning Tree Man though. Aside from that, in terms of new kits coming back, we have Orion, Erloth, the Lord of Talsin, and then a pack of woodland beasts as new units and sculpts that are all coming back. So before I get into all the rules stuff and what we think of the models, Battalion Box. Ryan, what are your thoughts on it?
Personally, I'm a big fan of this box, mainly because it's largely comprised of dual kits.
Yeah.
So while, like, on the sticker, it says that it's so even looking at the box art, like, you can see Glade Guard and Deepwood Scouts, you can see Wildwood Rangers and Eternal Guard, which you don't need, just ignore that they exist.
Yeah.
And you can see Wild Riders and Sisters of the Thorn. So you get this box, you have 30 archers, you have 20 infantry, you have 10 cavalry that you can make in basically any combination of wood elf, core, and special units that you want, which is just an amazing value. And honestly, like with very little work, you could probably turn the cavalry into Glade Riders if you wanted an
Yeah.
additional option that doesn't suck. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this would be a very good value.
Yeah. Chop off the antlers, and I think most people won't bat an eyelash, frankly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrew, what are your thoughts on the battalion?
I think it's good. It has a lot of the units you'd want to take. Although this box would have been probably a little bit better pre FAQ.
Yeah.
Because you would have had two squads of sisters there, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Depending on like what that wild hunt list is like, this might just be like a good shoe in for it because you'd get like 2 units of wild riders. I assume the axe dudes would be part of that list as well. We can get into that later, but like I think this is a good mix of like the units you want in a wood elf list anyway. Other than the Eternal Guard and the axe dudes, but a lot of people take wild riders. Blocks of archers are never bad, so yeah, I think it's a pretty good box.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's a pretty good box too. Like if you're not going for the most competitive list out there, which currently God knows what the most competitive list for Wood Elves is after the sisters nerf. But if you're not going for that, everything in here is I think eminently playable. I know the Eternal Guard get a really bad rap, but just they're really cool models. And if you're playing at home, like go to town. And if you're not playing at home, I think it's probably pretty because they are. I think you were telling me before the show started there, Andrew. They're the most recent sculpts that Wood Elves have, and they look fantastic. I think you can easily remove the spears and the shields, put some bows on them, call them your guard, not your glade guard, but your glade guard, and then use the other archer models as your deepwood scouts, and then you have a pretty I think a pretty solid foundation there for an actual competitive wood elf army. The sisters, as you mentioned, have definitely taken a massive nosedive right now, but Wild Riders are still fine, and they definitely have some synergy with that Army of Infamy we're going to be talking about in a minute. So they may get some value. I think these battalion boxes are the two that we've looked at today for sure are definitely moving in the right direction of here's a ton of stuff that you can use in a lot of different ways, and as Ryan was mentioning, the fact that these are double kits just increases the value for sure. Okay, so let's look at the new thoughts and stuff, the new kits and stuff. Sorry. So I'll start with you, Ryan. Any thoughts on the returning range and what's absent from the range, and then what are your thoughts on Orion and Erloth and the Beasts?
No, again, you heard my praises of the plastic range.
Yeah.
The not returning trees is kind of a weird situation because like the plastic dryads are available from AOS, but it's like the one range where they seem to have not been able to agree with themselves on carving the AOS piece out or not, possibly due to the publication of the physical book being done before they made that decision.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, the trees not. Yeah, so you can get trees, like you just have to go source bases for them, but also they're bad. So whatever. Although I will say the AOS like tree models are like the ones that have been redone, like tree revenants and stuff like that, are really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like they've got kind of all the usual stuff, various birds and whatnot. Just go buy the Lord of the Rings fucking eagle.
Yeah.
All the Warhammer
way better.
Fantasy Eagles are terrible. Go get the Lord of the Rings one. Talson is a tree elf. I don't know. He looks cool. I like him. Aside from Orion's like weird dog sheep, Um,
Yeah.
I actually really liked the Orion model, despite the fact that it's like super 90s and probably made of metal. Um,
Yeah, it is.
like
It is made of
it has
metal. Yeah.
kind of a charm to it. And the fact, yeah, I don't know, it's just hitting me now that he is not cavalry, but is a goat elf.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, but I'll talk about that later.
Not Beastmen. Yeah. Yeah. I think like I'm used to seeing him in Total War, where he's actually like he's beefy, like he's massive, and this picture makes it look like he's and probably the year he was sculpted in makes him look like he's actually tiny. So we'll have
I
to see.
mean, he may have been massive in 1998
Yeah,
measurements.
exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think he was like Demon Prince sized.
Okay. So we're good then. We're good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
I
mean,
But
mean,
that was
the
also '90s Demon Prince, not
I
like
mean, the 90s
oh
Demon Prince is like two Hans Lowenhackies. So,
yeah. Yeah. It's not the 2020s resculpted fucking greater demons of Games Workshop there, but yeah.
but like eyeball math says he's on a 50 by 50. So he's not
Yeah.
small.
No, you're right. You're right. Andrew, any what are your thoughts on all this?
I don't really like Erloth. I didn't like him when he came out in 8th. He's just like too busy and too weird
Really?
looking. Well, um, do you have it here?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's just below, yeah.
No, I was at the time the Wood Elf metal characters that were from like the early 2000s re-release.
Yeah.
They had so much character, like that dude standing on the tree with like the two-handed axe,
Yeah.
the archer guy with like the big the horns coming off his like eagle helmet, like they were so cool.
Yeah.
And then this guy came out and it's like it was a big departure from like how cool the Wood Elf metal characters already were at the time. So it's like I didn't like him because of it. Like he's definitely the worst out of like the four that exist. Um So yeah, like I guess that old prejudice is still there because it's like, oh, it's just like the Eternal Guard fucking character. Like he can
Yeah.
be a unit champion for all like I see. Seeing Orion come back though, like that's hitting right in the nostalgia. I remember that model years ago. Again, it looks like he's got like a really nice updated paint job with sort of more modern techniques used. So like he looks just extra awesome. And yeah, the dogs are a little bit derpy, but I don't know, there's worse stuff in all the ranges out there, so like it's serviceable. I mean, if you have to, just get like
Other
I don't
dogs
know.
from somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many other like wolves and wolf models and like dire wolf from Lord of the Rings that you can use in place of these guys. So like it's an easy replacement.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah, I guess the first thought I had is like the tree stuff that's not coming back. I know that a lot of people were looking forward towards a potential treemen and stuff based Army of Infamy. We talked about rumors a few episodes ago for Wood Elves and that there would be no tree based Army of Infamy, and I think these releases kind of point in that direction. I think Orion fits very well with the Army of Infamy. We're gonna thematically cover in a second, and then Erloth definitely doesn't give me vibes of guy leading a bunch of treemen around. So I think that just goes to show that there's going to be no Army of Infamy around tree spirits, as it were. That's a bit unfortunate. I like Andrew. I do like the Erloth miniature though. Like I think if you remove the absolutely impractical helmet that he's wearing that has like three sets of antlers on it and give him some sort of more regular helm or even a bare elf head with like a crazy hairdo going on, I think he'd be a really really good miniature. So I guess we'll disagree on that one. I do kind of like him. And then Orion, yeah, he is super like just a key wood elf piece of nostalgia miniature. So I'm also happy that he's coming back. Although he is he is showing his age a little bit more than I remembered, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm interested to see also what's coming with the with the woodland beasts. They mentioned during the preview that there's like that it's a 12 pack of minis sculpted in 1987 that's coming back. There's like 4 elf handlers, and then there's deepwood hounds, forest cats, sylvan bears, and sylvan boars, and a bear of Lauren as part of that pack. So that'll be interesting. See what what those look like, and definitely as a new unit too. Let's move on to some rule stuff. So overall, we have very, very little information on Wood Elf rules, less than we did for Beastmen. So I'm just going to list out 3 or 4 points. We could talk about it after, and then after that, we'll talk about the Army of Infamy. So first thing is there's a new lore of magic coming for the Wood Elves. We have no details as to what that looks like. Erloth was described as pairing with Eternal Guard, and him being like being at home in close combat, paired up with a unit of Eternal Guard. His bird allegedly has gameplay effects, quote unquote. It can peck out the eyes of your enemies, which is interesting. And then Wood Elf kindreds are coming back. They're described as upgrades for your characters. And then the last thing we have is the unit of beast packs, and I mentioned it's composed of hounds, cats, boars, and bears. Any thoughts on these rules, Andrew?
Well, there's not much to go off of. I think it'll be cool to see how they sort of work that into these lists, and if we'll see them sort of propagate out to the main Wood Elf list, or if they're like list locked to the Armies of Infamy. It's weird that they're kind of going back on their statement early in the development cycle of Old World, where they were saying like, every army's not going to have their own new lore of magic like they did in previous editions, but like it seems like every release since dwarfs, I guess Chaos didn't, but like there's a lot of new lores coming into the game anyway. Beastmen are getting one, Wood Elves are getting one, and the other army we're going to talk about later is also getting like 2.
Yeah.
So it seems like they've kind of rolled that back a bit and are expanding out the magic.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if, like, given time, maybe next edition, or if they start releasing more arcane journals, if they give more armies access to these lores. That's kind of the big standout for me, is just new lores are always interesting. It's always cool to see like how those change the game, or complement the armies that they're part of.
For sure, yeah. I'm excited to see what they look like, and then if the lore is attached to a specific Army of Infamy, like it is for Troll Magic, for instance, or if it's just like a general thing that you could have in the whole army. Like, I think it'd be potentially cooler if all the grand armies used the sort of generic lores, and then you had specific Armies of Infamies with their own lores as like a cool aside thing that they get.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the beasts. What are your thoughts, Andrew? Before we move on to Ryan, there about like a unit filled with bears of Lauren.
It feels like this isn't the army to have that.
Sure.
I don't know. That's just kind of like a personal thing. And I've Googled those old models. They are fucking rough.
Oh, yeah.
They are definitely 80s sculpts. If it's the ones I saw, but I Googled like Wood Elf Games Workshop beasts, and yeah, they're not good. They are rough looking models.
I'll have to take a look. Yeah.
I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. I guess that like that would make sense in the Wild Hunt. So like all these sort of Wood Elf beast tamers are, going on a big hunt with the monsters they have, or the woodland creatures they have. It'll be a weird list to see how they like incorporate that in for me. What kind of rules will they have? Will they have like Swift Stride? Will they be, will a bear have like multi wounds or something, or will they just kind of be like single wound sort of toss away chaff things. Like it's
Yeah.
really hard to see what direction they're going to go with that.
Yeah, I was thinking at first it's going to be a little bit like the squig herds and their handlers, but then, if all of the presumably those animals have different rules and stats because a cat and a bear are like quite, different in physical ability. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if you have like something like the squig herd, but with like 4 different types of animals and handlers. We'll have to see for sure. Ryan, what are your
I
thoughts
mean,
on these? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
oh no, I'll bring it up when I get to my part. So,
It is your part now. Yeah.
tracking. Okay, so new lore magic again, like lore. I think they called it lore of the wilds too in the article.
Okay.
It's one of those like, okay, cool, they get a new lore magic. Is it super elementalism? I don't know what it's supposed to be, but cool, more spells. Um, do something, and then Erloth, yeah, like character combined with Eternal Guard. I feel like whatever Army of Infamy that's supposed to be built around him is going to be if the Grand Army is the classic archers kind of thing, his is going to be trying to make Deepwood Scouts and Eternal Guard be a thing somehow. Um, much like Fetch, it won't be, but it'll try. Um, so, and Erloth as a character seems cool, but again, it's a dude with a weird bird. Um, the bird probably just gives him like extra attacks too, or something, or like attacks like a mount, something silly.
Yeah.
And then Wood Elf Kindreds seems like beefier Wood Elf sprites. I don't actually know enough about Wood Elves to
Oh
know.
yeah. So the kindreds, I went to look them up yesterday. Basically, they're extremely similar to Elven Honors for the High Elves. It's
Yeah.
like some sort of Wood Elf clan that your character just is a part of, and basically you get like equipment that come like signature equipment, restrictions, and rules that come along with that. So like mount restrictions or
Ah,
whatever. So it's
okay.
extremely similar to Elven Honors. Yeah.
Okay, so between that and the sprites, you'll have kind of a cool like combo way to do Wood Elf stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and
Sweet.
and and being able to layer those 3 layers together, I think is you can maybe get something cool. Yeah,
And then the
like
beast packs, it's giving me very strong. If anyone was on the 40K side, the Dark Eldar Beastmaster packs or
yes,
beast
that's what I was
packs,
thinking. Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it, it's giving me that kind of a deal where like you're gonna have to take all of them, at least one, and then they'll all have like weirdly different abilities, but be in one unit and suffer from the problem that uh, Chaos Warhounds have, where as soon as you add the handler, he like
they slow
makes the
down.
unit worse in every possible way.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but he has a whip. Better.
yeah,
So I'm sure it'll be something weird, but like I do love the idea, and I will talk about this when we get to the Wild Hunt. But like I do love the idea of like herds of loose forest animals like running along with the wood elves doing stuff,
yeah,
just not derpy models that are literally older than I am. um,
yeah.
doing.
Yeah. Actually, Andrew sent me the picture while you were talking. Man, these are these are some funny sculpts. There's like some strong He-Man vibes going on here with the models, and like each of the different animals has its own little keeper. Like there's the like the bear dressed guy who's keeping the bears and stuff. Like it's a pretty funny pretty funny set. And actually, the Wildcats, it's a bunch of jaguars. So like, I would be down with my Wood Elf army having a bunch of units of jaguars or panthers or what have you running around and just and just running amok around the battlefield. So Yeah, that is cool stuff. Okay, cool. Let's talk about. Actually, before I move on, no, that's all right. Okay, so let's move on to the Army of Infamy. So we just have details on one Army of Infamy here, and that's the Wild Hunt. So not much info here, but we do have an idea based on some of the models that are coming back and some of the things we can sort of glean from the release overall. So I'll start with you, Ryan. Like, what are your thoughts on what's in the Wild Hunt Army of Infamy? What kind of skew we're looking at? Which character ties along with it? I think that one's a gimme, but and any wishes you might have.
So, as the guy who just wants to build a light cavalry army and then got annoyed that I was forced to take Glade Guard and decided not to play Wood Elves, this is probably the one thing that would get me to do Wood Elves, because it would, conceptually, to me, it would be like a somewhere between like Mongol horse archers and like lightning strikes type idea. Like it's
Sure.
probably going to have Glade Guard in core or Glade Riders in core. Maybe some kind of alternate Glade Rider that's more melee focused. It's gonna have whatchamacallit, the weird I'm blanking on Wood Elf names. What are the
The
deer cavalry?
Wild Riders.
Yeah, it's gonna have Wild Riders. Like it's just gonna be all of your cavalry things, Orion, your other fast options. And then likely more of your infantry things will still exist, but they'll be in like special or other parts of the army. Because all the descriptions I found of the Wild Hunt just seem to be this like primal urge, wood elves sprinting through the woods, genociding beastmen um, activity that just kind of comes from Orion being awake in that whole cyclical season thing they have going on there.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be very interesting, and I think it'll be very much up my like alley. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on this one. It's probably also going to be one of those ones that's very like the special character like adds to it, but it's going to be a very restricted army, kind of like what the Slayer army you can build for the dwarves. Like
Sure.
Orion is like the epicenter of the Wild Hunt, so I feel like he's going to interact with the army in some particular way. But you're right, like it's going to be a very limited choice. It's probably none of the tree units; they'll all be gone. Lots of cavalry. Probably your everything's probably going to be impetuous or frenzied or something. But yeah, I just speed, violence, murdering orcs. Just it appeals to me at a very fundamental level. That's all.
Yeah, that's you're selling me on this, Andrew. What are your thoughts for the Wild Hunt?
Yeah, I think like what Ryan said, you're gonna see a lot of Cav based. It's probably also where, like I said, these the beast packs are gonna be part of. And then a lot of Wild Riders because they're sort of, other than Orion, like the poster child for that whole Wild Hunt vibe. Um, Probably limited magic because I think the lore is mostly like Orion works these guys up into like a big frenzy and they just start tearing through the forest, like Ryan said. Um, so if they do have casters, you're probably going to be limited to like level 2s.
Because most of the magic also ties into what's his
Ariel
wife
or
name?
whatever.
Alariel, yeah.
Ariel.
Yeah.
No, Lariel's the high elf one.
Ariel.
Ariel's the.
Ariel, yeah.
So yeah, like I think it'll be like a very combat oriented army, not a lot of magic support, if any. And just like Ryan said, just fast, fast, fast. So like the fastest shit in the list is gonna be in there, and their whole shtick is just gonna be like rush Russian kill.
The Ricky Bobby of armies.
Yes.
I was gonna say more
Amazing.
like the Leroy Jenkins, but yeah.
All good references for sure. Yeah, I'm picking up what you guys are selling here. Like I like this concept. I think when I think of the Wild Hunt, I think of an army that's built around like you guys mentioned, sort of a oops all cav and animals list. Like a glass hammery build, a lot of impetuous, a lot of frenzy in there for sure. Orion as sort of a centerpiece because he is like the spiritual or the actual leader of the Wild Hunt, for sure. So Wild Riders, let's be crazy. Let's have Wild Riders, at least one unit in core. Orion, Glade Riders, the Eagles, all the animals, like just packs of jaguars and bears running around. Like I'm there for that kind of stuff. Stags with no riders, like you just remove the wild rider from the deer or what have you there, and just have those guys running around. Unicorns, hawk riders, let's go! Like just like a Noah's Ark of an army list.
I would be
Um,
all for non-wizards on unicorns as a thing somehow, but
yeah, sure, let's
not
go.
gonna happen.
Let's go, or just a pack of unicorns. Like, yeah, let's go.
That movie
Yeah,
that came out over the weekend, Death of a Unicorn, it's
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Uh,
As an army, a Warhammer army, yeah, that'd be fantastic. Like I'm chuckling to myself thinking about it, and also looking at those models you sent me, Andrew, with the crazy He-Man vibes. Yeah, I also see this as being like limited from a magic perspective. I think Ariel is like definitely the more magic side of the Wood Elves, and Orion is the heavy hitter, melee heavy hitter running around. So yeah, I think that's what I say. I'm excited to see what comes of this army. I wasn't too excited at first, but the more we're talking about it, yeah, I'm there for it. Let's see what shows up. Okay, so let's move on to the big reveal, Cathay. I don't think anybody was expecting this. Probably nobody around the world, frankly, was expecting to see this during the preview. But they did review what they said was the whole release of Grand Cathay. Initially, 8 kits total. Ryan, you want to just run us through which kits are showing up?
Absolutely. So we've got Jade Warriors, which is your like core infantry. We've got Jade Lancers, which is cavalry. We have a dual artillery kit that makes a fire rain rocket battery and a Cathayan great cannon, and a sweet Oriental ogre that comes with it. We have a presumably heavy chariot flying sky lantern.
Mhm.
We have a Cathayan sentinel, which is a big jade statue or warpstone statue. Um, we have 3 characters: the Shugengen Lord, the Magister, and Gatemaster. And then we have Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon, who is both a dragon and a humanish character.
Yeah,
Um, all of those sorts of things are coming out. So
nice. Um, what are your guys' overall like initial impressions on the army's aesthetic? Like, what do you like and dislike from the army, and what are your standout models and just any thoughts that you've got on these guys? Starting with Andrew.
Um, they look pretty cool. Definitely have that sort of high fantasy take on ancient China. Very Dynasty Warriors looking for
Yeah.
me. Um, Also, Ogre Kingdom's confirmed returning. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, yeah, like for me, the standout is definitely the Sky Lantern. It's such a cool kit. It's such a sort of iconic look for what you'd think of sort of ancient China, like that whole paper lamp look. It's just very cool and very fantasy. I really don't know much about this army. I never played like Total War or anything, so for me, this is all sort of new aesthetics and new things. Um, but yeah, for me, the standout is probably the Sky Lantern or the big like Jade Golem. What is it called?
The Cathayan Sentinel.
Cathayan Sentinels, like those are just cool. You attached the gray one, but I think that sort of brown terracotta one that they showed off at the previews is a cooler paint job and just very evocative of kind of what you'd think of like ancient high fantasy China. Really cool range. I guess my main concern would be scale creep. They don't have any real pictures of this stuff next to sort of the older old world stuff, so my hope is that we're not in a what are they? Knights of the Realm on foot situation where they're clearly much bigger than the actual other foot models, but we're probably there, right?
We're
Given
probably there.
modern
It's because
GW.
they're fed better.
No, it's not that at all. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Ryan.
Yeah. So I think they all look cool. Like if you really liked Mulan as a child, this is the army for you.
Yes.
It's not particularly an aesthetic that I'm like, I want to go out and build an army based on this, but they are like to my idea, like they are very nice looking models, not models I would build. They're not like I haven't found the thing that makes this faction click for me yet, but they're very cool and they're very representative of the thing that they're obviously trying to represent, which is a respectful fantasy version of medieval China. But just when I think of that, I immediately think of um, Mulan. So that's just how that works. But I think they look cool. I really like even the basic line infantry are nice. I do share Andrew's concern though that I mean I'm not even gonna pretend they're just gonna all be like Hans Lowenhack adjacent sized. Like
Yeah, I think they're even on
a
30s,
thing.
frankly. Yeah.
Yes. So and like they're filling up 30s if they're on 30s. Like they're junky. Um like the cavalry models are ridiculously large and are reminding me of the Empire or not the Empire, the Cities of Sigmar ones that
Oh,
like
the Free Guild Cavaliers, I
Free
think
Guild
they're called.
Cavaliers, yeah. 'Cause I have a couple of them that I was trying to convert into Bretonian stuff, and they are massive
Yeah.
compared to my regular cavalry, but they still look cool. But for me, honestly, it's honestly the characters that do it for me. Like the Lord on Longma
Yeah.
is just amazingly cool. And I'm trying to think of ways to explain away capturing a Longma and pretending it's a hippogriff.
Yeah, sure.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
slapping a Bretonian guy on it. Just gonna.
Just it was like a gift from like an ambassadorial trade or something.
That's perfectly valid. Yeah, we traded them a Pegasus. We got a Longma.
Yeah.
It's fine.
With how popular Pegasuses are in Old World, I think that was a pretty good trade for you. You came out the winner on that one.
Yeah. The dragon, like I love it. I absolutely love that the dragon looks like a dragon who's a person who's a human most of the time.
Yeah.
Like it's moving like a really big person, not like a flying snake monster.
Yeah.
So I like that. Yeah, the giant cool golem thing is sweet and has 3 different ways it can exist, which is one of them is just radioactive, which is hilarious.
Which is obviously the
Uh,
best way. Yeah. We'll get to it. Yeah.
yeah. No, I think like and all the models like the artillery crew, the crew on the lantern. Like have you seen some of the zoom in shots of
Yeah.
like the person just lounging, like lighting grenades with a match they're holding in their mouth. Like
Amazing. Yeah.
it's everything's a diorama piece, and I don't hate myself enough to attempt to interact with any of it. but it's all really cool to look at.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, like I agree with you. I think they nailed it in terms of just designing all these models. Like I'm super pumped to see what they've done with like a more modern take on the old world. Like obviously, you know, the game is filled right now with a lot of older kits that are coming back, but seeing what GW in 2025 can bring to the table, reimagine in the old world, is just, that's the part I'm most excited, I think, about. And I think the aesthetic works for me. Like it's cool. Like as you mentioned, Ryan, they are like they managed to sculpt what they had set out to do, and I think visually and aesthetically, like it all comes together and it's all cohesive and it works. Like that's all great. Um, yeah, I think also like a lot of the elements that sort of are, you know, when we talked about after the last preview, I talked a little bit about what were the key elements of Cathay in the Total War series, and you know the elements that came to mind sort of are the ones that they brought into the game now. So that all makes sense for me. I guess I thought I would see some peasants also, because they're pretty key to the army also in the game. But they decided to go a slightly more elite route, which is totally fine. In terms of like the aesthetic specifically, this is not necessarily something I'm super into personally, like the whole ancient China vibe. But like I know that it's a super popular aesthetic, and people will definitely go for it. What I find a little bit tough for me right now is like, for me right now, it's just models, right? And I kind of end up buying into an army because I buy into the lore, the narrative, and the story that's being told. So you know, you guys earlier sold me on a crazy army of like bloodthirsty unicorns tearing through the forest and just doing whatever with the wild hunt. Like I don't have anything really selling me this army that I'm sort of grabbing onto. If there was something, I think I could like this would grow on me. But right now they're just cool models. It's like when you know, 40K had like the Votan come out, and nobody knew anything about them except that we now had squats back. It was like, it's tough for me to sort of get attached to these product lines if I don't really understand the lore and the why they're there and the story and the world building. So until that happens, probably not going to go for them. But like I'm super. I think they're fantastic regardless. In terms of what I prefer, like my favorite models, I really like the Sentinels. You know, you said everything was a diorama, Ryan, but these guys are actually probably pretty easy to paint up. I do like the artillery pieces for sure. I think that they have so much character with all the different crew and loaders and the ogre like doing completely different things. It's the same kit that builds both cannons, and nonetheless, like the crew have so many options on them that like you can't even really tell that it's the same crew members. So that's also really fantastic. You're right, Ryan. Also, like the long Malord is also like a really cool and interesting sculpt. And yeah, I think last thing is the paint job. Like I'm not super sold on like the bluish, you know, turquoise color scheme here. And I didn't really realize, but then later on in the preview, they show some of the characters and they're like in a black and red paint scheme. And I think that hits, for me anyways, aesthetically, is a lot cooler. So yeah, I think I'd go for a different color scheme. But yeah, again, overall, this is a super cool range, and I'm super happy and excited to see a new army show up to
Can
the
I
old
build
world.
on one of your points before we move on?
Yeah, of course.
So I totally agree with you on the like, also being a person who didn't play Total War, like there's no hook from a like, what is this?
Yeah,
And there's not really a lot of space in the forthcoming Arcane Journal for them to explain that either. Um,
yeah,
because the narrative seems to be an expeditionary force sent, you know, it's like a reverse Marco Polo sent to the Baltics of, or the Sea of Claws or whatever,
yeah,
to deal with incoming chaos invasion. And like I feel like it's in there, but like I'm really hoping that this has an opportunity for them to drop like a novel or something.
yeah,
Um, and like as much people love to shit on Lords of the Lance, it actually did a really good job of making me fall in love with parts of the Bretonian army that I was like not understanding.
Mm.
And so like there are units and things that I've like completely reconsidered from like a narrative gaming perspective after reading that book. Um, and so like I'm hoping maybe there's some kind of fiction tie-in, probably tied to this character that's leading the expedition. This
Yep.
is just my like pie in the sky hope to kind of give people that thing that you're asking for there, that story hook of like, why do I care about this faction? Um, Now, my other thing though is aside from the fact that they're super probably chunky relative to my state troops, is like I'm going for like a really mercenary thing with my Nuln army, and I would
Sure.
love to like somehow fit in some like Jade
Yeah.
Warriors or something like
Yeah, as
with
like
my
the
state
guard
troops.
unit for Lowenhack there, yeah.
Yeah, or something like even just intermixed, just like to
Yeah, yeah.
really play that like cosmopolitan kind of mercenary company idea.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I hadn't even thought of the novel bit. Like, let's hope they don't do. I going back to my previous example from 40K with the Leagues of Votan. I think that army released like 3 years ago, and their first novel that came out was like 2 or 3 months ago, and there was that whole gap where nobody really understood what was going on. And I think that like I'd hate to see them go down this road with the Cathay and with Cathay here. I really hope that you're right, Ryan. I hadn't thought about it, but like coming out with a Black Library novel to come along with this release would be a great way to just do that world building and stage setting for us, and then would probably give me, at least myself and probably other people, that hook to just come in. And like that's worked before on me. Like we don't talk about this much because it's like other game systems. Like the largest army I own is Night Lords, and for 30K for the Horus Heresy, and that is like directly the result of me reading the Night Lords trilogy, like those Library books, just getting me hooked into an army and then just throwing me down a big rabbit hole. So I think you're right. Like the having a tie-in novel would be a really strong way to get this started too.
If
Um,
Aaron Dempsey Bowden wrote a novel about Cathay, I would read it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the reverse Marco Polo by ADB. Exactly. Fighting Freydal the Chainmaker or something. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, let's talk about the battalion box. Ryan, what are your thoughts on what's coming up here?
So, what we got ahead of us here looks like 3 units of 10 Jade, so 30 Jade Warriors. Looks like 10 Jade Lancers and 2 of the artillery pieces.
Yeah,
That seems like a respectable start to any sort of army. My okay, this is my like I know how this game works, and it doesn't matter how broken you make their rules. My only like weird problem I see with this is like there is nothing under the sun that's going to make Jade Warriors not bad. Um,
exactly. Yeah.
when they come out, they're so cool looking, but at best they're heavy armor with shields, probably heavy infantry, um, with either a hand weapon and a shield or a halberd.
Yep, I heard a
And
lot of people saying maybe they're full plate, but actually in the review they straight out say
they
it's
explicitly
heavy
said heavy armor.
heavy
Yeah,
armor and shield. Yeah,
yeah. And then on top of that, like, okay, cool, they have magical oriental dwarf crafted armor that has the exact same rule as Gormrel, where they reroll ones. But
yeah,
rerolling ones is not that helpful when you only have a 5-up armor save and everything that kills you, because you're also toughness 3.
exactly.
Um, anyway, won't go on my rant about macro game problems, but it's one of those problems like this will fill out an army quickly. 2 of these boxes will probably give you a very robust army that will still be very bad at the game because of structural problems with the core rules with regards to ranked infantry.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, 100% agreed. So I agree with everything you said, and that was the comment I was going to make about the Jade Warriors later too. So fully on board with this one. There's one thing I forgot to say earlier that I'm just going to take this moment to talk about. That was one of my favorite bits about the release when they talked about Cathay. Is they also name dropped and like contextually dropped in a bunch of like enemies of Grand Cathay, and there's some really spicy lore bits in there. Like for instance, they mentioned that the one of the types of sentinels is used on Cathay's like southeastern border or whatever, and is like holding back the blood nagas of Koresh or whatever. Like that is super exciting to hear mainline GW on a preview bring up such an obscure but cool part of the lore. And I'm not crazy enough to believe that I'm gonna have a Blood Naga army coming anytime soon, but let me tell you, I'm there for it. If you want to start sculpting SDS, like I will buy the shit out of that. And then also they mentioned the Hobgoblin Khans as another enemy that was specifically in this case fighting against what's her name again? The Storm Dragon Miao Ying. So that's another cool little lore drop there. So parking that bit aside because I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. For the battalion box, I think Ryan, you're right. Like a lot of heavy infantry here. It's going to suffer the problem of like foot knights in Bretonia and that kind of expensive heavy infantry stuff. But it is what it is. Aside from that, I think the Jade Lancers are probably going to see a ton of play in this army, and then having two of the artillery pieces, as it's a dual kit that can be built both ways, is super interesting. So if it turns out that one of the two, probably the cannon, let's be honest, is better, then you could just slap the other one as a cannon, and then have a pair of those big bad boys with a bunch of cavalry, as I think is a good start to the army for sure. So that's I like the battalion box. What are your thoughts, Andrew, on the battalion box?
Yeah, I think you guys covered most of it. Unfortunately, the foot troops are going to be trash. Unless this is some sort of setup for an updated edition. But we can touch on that later, I guess. Yeah, but the cavalry will probably see some use, and definitely war machines like cannons. Regardless of what they are, they're good. They'll be useful. You'll find use for it. Hopefully, the foot troops could be used as something else, maybe like a dual kit. I'm not sure. They haven't really showed that, but who knows? But yeah, they probably aren't the greatest thing in this list.
Yeah, they talked about so the dragon Miao Ying can upgrade some of those foot troops to celestial dragon guards. So they may have like an alternate unit option you could build out of them too, or just like a
Higher
rule.
weapon skill, bad infantry.
Yeah, sure. But like, as we're talking about this, in my own army, like Infernal Guard, for instance, if you stack enough defensive rules on this kind of infantry, I get it's only toughness 3 there, but if you give it, stubborn and shield wall and high leadership and all this kind of stuff and a useful banner or two, you can probably keep it alive long enough to use your war machines and the counterpunch of your lancers to useful gain there, especially, and we'll get to it later there, since your cannons don't necessarily need line of sight. So anyways, it's a cool box. Let's move on to, we talked about a lot of this stuff, so we'll just go pretty quickly here. But the Jade Warriors, so from a visual and a rules perspective, I'll kick us off for Jade Warriors. So I think Ryan mentioned it earlier there, but like basically what they mentioned in the stream is heavy armor, shields for these guys. You see hand weapons also in some of the pictures online, or pole arms as like the two different options for them. And they have a defensive stance rule that lets them reroll ones if they remain stationary. So I get like a gun line vibe of these guys just sort of sitting in front of all those big cannons and and just being the anvil, and then having the lancers running around. I like the models. I think the bright turquoise color scheme doesn't necessarily sell super well for me, but like I do like the models. They have a clear aesthetic. They don't just look like Empire but Asian, like they have a clear aesthetic and it works. What are your thoughts on these guys, Ryan? Anything that we haven't said?
I like their banner and their musician. And
Yeah, yeah,
they are cool. Like they're sweet looking models. I actually do really appreciate the fact that this is one of the first kits to be like gender agnostic. Like they have every model can have a head that's either feminine or masculine,
yeah,
whatever. So like I appreciate that's a cool option. Like they're very cool models. I like the kind of scale mail armor, the shields. Um, I already ranted about their likely deficiency within the paradigm of the game. We do have kind of like I don't think we have a spot to discuss this later, but like just kind of like a macro Cathay problem I identified is like they're getting 8 units, but when you look at it, like they have no supporting missile unit, only war machines. Like they just have this weird like it almost feels like there has to be a second wave
yeah,
coming for them to feel like a complete army because I feel like they're going to be very pigeonholy otherwise.
yeah.
But anyway, that's that.
Yeah, because there's like out of those 8 kits, there's like 4 of them that are characters, So yeah,
Correct.
yeah. It'll get samey pretty quickly. Hopefully, there's like alternate options, like using the same kit or modifying them a little bit, but calling it a different unit with some different rules. Hopefully, because
I
otherwise,
will also say their halberds are super cool.
yeah, agree. Yeah, yeah, they're really cool stuff. Okay, Andrew, what are your thoughts on the Jade Warriors?
I like them. I'm just looking at them right now. They're very busy is like my concern.
Yeah,
It's definitely like modern GW sculpting. I think it works more with these guys because of sort of the background around the whole like line and being sort of Chinese inspired. But comparing that to like the older um fantasy sculpts, there's a lot going on. I
yeah,
think it's gonna be like hard to pump out this army quickly.
yeah,
Just because of all the small details and the little gubbins and like all the intricate, you know, lines and panels on their armor. Like even those weird sort of neck guards they have, like with all the small details and
yeah. They make painting the faces hard, and yeah,
yeah, like they're really cool kits. Don't get me wrong. They're very evocative. They, the horses look like they're in motion, which is really cool for a calf kit. Because a lot of the times the older calf kind of just looks like they're marching, whereas
mhm,
this looks like at least the front rank is on like a full gallop going forward. Not full gallop, but like at least like a charge style gallop. So it's really cool. Um, Touching on Ryan's point, the musician, how the fuck do you play drums on a horse? Um, like that, a horn makes sense. Two drums on either side of the horse's head is kind of strange.
Are we on the cavalry now?
Oh,
No,
I thought
he
we
was
were.
supposed to. Yeah, but it's good. He was just supposed to do the infantry, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
I thought we were on the cavalry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all
Let's
good.
go back
Well,
to.
no.
Let's
It's
go
yeah,
back. Uh, Kind of the same story though, right? Um, it's it. They're very much the same as the Lancers, but on foot. They got like again a lot going on. Um, with the armor, so it's gonna be hard to like paint that quickly, especially if you're planning on picking out all the small details. Again, they look super cool. It's just
yeah. It's gonna be a
I don't
passion
know.
project for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, not much to say there.
Yeah, I think you need
Basically, my
to.
comments with the Cav go hand in hand with the foot troops because they're basically pretty much the same body shape and like armor style. Just one's on a horse, one's on a foot.
Well, it's the same. It's the same dues, like the Jade Lancers and the Jade Warriors. It's just they have mounts or not. Yeah, I'm looking at it while you're talking there, Andrew, and how I would like just go about painting these guys. Yeah, I think your best bet is like to start with some color that you'll use for all the leathers and the straps and stuff, like the browns, because it's mixed in the middle of all the other textures, and just hopefully get them all done that way, and then pick out your silver bits, like your metal bits, like the scale armor on the front, and then after that, do something to the cloth, like what they have here in turquoise on all the pictures, like the accent cloth. Doing it that way is probably like the best bet to crank them out quickly. But you're right, like this is a very intricate model, and the thing is, all the textures are mixed in with each other, so it's going to be a bit of a hassle for sure. Okay, let's move on to the horsemen. Andrew already spoke about them, but Ryan, what are your thoughts on these guys?
Visually, I appreciate their dynamicness, much like the new Illyrian Reavers. But also, they're hard for me to look at. I don't know if it's just the angle of the photography that they have, but like it's like something's not working for me. And also, I somehow feel like they're going to be difficult to rank up.
Yeah, it kind of just looks like a blob of colors, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Like I can't tell what it is. Like I'm sure they're lovely, but it's just not like.
I think it's just like the picture and the weird, like the background we have on the picture we're talking about. I don't think it's doing it any favors either.
Now, I will counter your double timpani drum issue. Is I can literally send you pictures of military parades where I've witnessed the British Horse Guards have exactly the same drum setup on a horse that is derivative of actual military horse drumming activities in history.
Are they taking said drums into battle, or is that just a
They
parade?
did at a point in time.
Oh my god. All right, fine, whatever.
Mistakes were made, Andrew.
I'm not saying it was a great idea. I'm just saying it's a thing that occurred.
Let's deafen my horse and then fucking like have no hands free. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay, first of all, the musicians in those times were children, so it's okay.
Okay, all right.
Now,
Jade Lancers,
quick to replace, I guess.
Yeah, the most interesting thing about the Jade Lancers, though, is they repeatedly mentioned in the article and the video stream they were able to fight in 2 ranks. And at first, I was like, "Oh man, lances that fight in 2 ranks on the charge, that would be ridiculously good." And then I realized how bad Games Workshop is at like burying the lead. And somehow I was just like filled with dread, being like, these are cavalry, or these are heavy cavalry armed with cavalry spears. Because then it's technically the truth, but also terrible.
Yeah, I don't think so, because they said, Ryan, that they were armed with Cathayan lances, and I think it's not the unit that has a fight and extra rank rule. It's the weapon that lets them do that. It's like the Cathayan lance himself.
It's just like I didn't watch the whole video, but when you read it in the article, it was like it was very possible that was an option, and I was filled with dread. But having fight an extra rank, like having a reason to actually run a brick of 10 or 8 to 10 cavalry is kind of cool to me. Because like you're going to get a rank bonus. They probably have first charge. You're going to get extra attacks. You're going to have high initiative when you attack. Like it'll be cool. My only concern is that because of that, they're going to be like in the Knights of the Realm price range, but without the ward save or the reroll ones or whatever. So, but being able to just body slam a unit and get 10 attacks or 11 attacks with a champion is going to be pretty cool.
Sure, yeah. But it's like I had the same thought, Ryan, when I was looking at them. And I just saw, like, just from a gamey perspective, is like this is a big loot pinata of victory points running around waiting to be killed on, something that's not that durable when you look at one wound heavy cav in this game. Remember when we were playing in that tournament, somebody brought a unit of 14 Knights of the Realm, and immediately every single player was like, okay, this is the first thing that always dies each game, because it creates such a points dense sort of unit that's actually not that hard to get rid of, that I think these guys may run into the same issue.
Quite possibly.
And then the other rule that they had, sorry, I'm going to skip you, Andrew, because you did already just go on about these guys. But the other thing that they mentioned in the video is so they have the Cathayan Cataphracts rule, which basically lets them count a follow up. So if your enemy only follows up as a new combat, so it counts as having charged. So this unit, when they follow up, they count as having charged. So they're basically always going to get to use their lances, even on those rare occasions when technically it isn't a new combat. So that's also interesting. Visually, I think they're cool. They're super cool. They fit the aesthetic of the army. They're amazing sculpts with a lot of movement to them. I don't have anything negative to say. Like I get your point, Ryan. Like the picture that we have here, it just looks like a blob of models, like a wall of models. But I think in the flesh, they're gonna be nice, chunky, heavy cav. That'll be fun to look at when they're all painted, and a pain in the ass to paint. So so those are my thoughts. Let's move on to the artillery. Andrew, what are your thoughts on the two pieces of artillery there, the Great Cannon and the Rocket Battery?
I think that this is one of those kits that Ryan had said, everything's a diorama. Like there's so much going on with the, I don't know, the artillery crews, like the old man, I guess he's like the ammo guy, the ogres, the powder keg one, and then the other one kind of just carrying all like the extra tools and gubbins. Like there's so much for just like an artillery piece. There's so much sort of action and movement going on in it, and then living up to that sort of ancient China / high fantasy vibe. Like the cannon and the rocket are just super like intricate and stylized. Coming out of like the big dragon head. Very cool kits. And even though it's the same crew models, it looks like there's enough bits that you can sort of assemble it so everyone's fairly different from one another, so you don't just have like the same crew models on every piece of artillery you have. Like you can have enough visual differential cues on them that they look like different people or whatever. So very cool kits. Again, probably a bit of a pain to paint though, just given all like the small details and things.
Yeah, it's like 4 foot dudes though, so like it'll look sick when you've got it together. Like this is a feel good paint project though. Not like painting
For
10
sure.
of those heavy cav where you're just gonna want to off yourself halfway through. Like this will be a feel good one for sure. So jumping in here, I think these are fantastic. There's a lot of world building here. I'm happy to see the ogres get some time in the sun. Like I look at this crew, and like you could just build a sick Mordheim warband out of like all these handlers, the crew members and the ogre and all the cool stuff going on here. The models speak to me. There's like you mentioned, Andrew. They're super intricate, a lot of detail. I think I actually see some rifling inside that cannon, which is probably the first time I've seen that in GW sculpting ever, which is cool. I like them. I think these are great kits. They're some of my favorite in the whole range for sure. From a rules perspective, they said that the fire rain rocket battery was inaccurate, but so it has multiple ammo types. It could have an inaccurate but highly deadly ammo type, and then it can have it can fire. Sorry, it's always inaccurate and highly deadly, and it has two ammo types, when they could shoot big targets and when they could shoot units. So that's cool and interesting. Hopefully they can maybe shoot different targets with all the rockets that they've got going. We'll have to see. And then the great cannon itself. So it appears that the ogre loader is like an upgrade, that when you do purchase it, it allows you to shoot the cannon twice in the same shooting phase, once per game, and then also allows you to move the cannon faster. So that's super, obviously super interesting, especially because that cannon looks like it's going to be packing a punch for sure. And then it has a rule similar but better, obviously, because Legacy Factions, as the Dreadquake Mortar in Chaos Dwarfs, where it has thunderous impacts, the cannon, which will slow down your enemies near where the shot has landed, which is also super interesting and potentially useful in game. So yeah, love these models. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
I think it's a fantastic diorama of a kit. They look really cool. It actually reminds me a lot of like I can see the design of the Bretonian field trebuchet and how dynamic the crew for that is kind of carried forward in this compared to say like the Empire cannon that just has like two super boring crew.
Yeah.
Whatever. So like I like that. I like that everything about it is interesting. Um it's really cool. I'm sure the cannon will be great. I'm sure the rockets will be rockety.
Middling.
Yeah. Like I love the canonical reintroduction of ogres that are not imperial into, or not
Yeah.
chaos or imperial, into the game. Like they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just overall it's a really cool model. Everything's very dynamic, very interesting, very visually tied together. So
Yeah, and the ogres have cool little Cathayan gut plates too, eh? Which
yeah,
is
yeah, I
interesting.
saw that.
Good stuff. Okay, let's move on then. The big sky lantern. So I think obviously this is like a centerpiece model. Apparently, it's like the tallest model in the old world. It comes like with a cool new base size, whatever that is. It has a flight stand, and then on top of that, you have this gigantic thing. The crew inside, like it's wild when you look at the crew, like everything that's going on inside that, inside the actual lantern itself. Um, it's also a mount option for one of the character types, like the magistrate. He's called, which is like seems to be an engineer type character for the faction. They mentioned that the Sky Lantern would be in the rare slot of the army. It could drop bombs, obviously, because it looks like it's carrying 3 or 4 bombs there. And then it has a rule called Eye of the Dragon, which I promise is not like a 1980s Bruce Lee movie, but is actually a rule that lets Cathayan artillery use this model's line of sight for firing, which I think kind of eliminates a problem with cannons in general, where if they're not on a hill and you want to lay your army out in front of them, you sort of restrict your shooting lanes a little bit, or have to shoot through yourself, or with artillery in general, I should say, allowing you to use the line of sight of this large target is going to be super helpful in your artillery fueled designs for sure. And then yeah, just going back to the model being like absolutely wicked, and I can't wait to for this thing to show up across the table from me. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this guy?
I think it's pretty cool. Again, I love the people inside of it, like all the little character pieces, the person throwing grenades, the people crewing it, all that looks
Yeah,
really cool. Um, gonna be the contrarian that I've been called many times, but like overall, I actually don't care for the whole thing. Like the paper lantern aesthetic doesn't do anything for me, and just having a like really tall tipping hazard of a model, like
sure, yeah,
I've knocked over models that are 2 inches tall playing this game. I don't know how a heavy chariot sized thing that's like 10 inches above the table is gonna fare in my presence. Um, so there's
Poorly.
that. I feel like you're gonna see a lot of these just sitting on their base on the ground because the line of sight rules of this game are not, actually based on
Yeah.
lines.
It's not true line of
Um,
sight. Yeah.
yeah, so but like I like what it does. I like what it brings to the game. I like the fact that the Falcon Horn of Fredeman will probably make it have movement like 0. Um,
Sure.
um, I'm curious as to how this Eye of the Dragon thing will work. I thought about it working for rockets with regards to the indirect fire penalties for things that use like the bombardment rules.
Yeah.
It would be real weird for it to make cannonballs magically teleport through obstacles.
Yeah. You're
Um,
right. But
but
maybe, who knows?
but who knows?
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Anything's
Um,
possible.
anyway, that's it.
Yeah, with the engineer on board, probably like gives you re-rolls too if you're artillery and stuff, like all that kind of fun stuff. Andrew, what are your thoughts about the great big hot air balloon?
For me, this is probably my favorite piece in the line. Um, Again, like just super ties into that ancient China theme. Um, and like all the characters in the gondola or whatever you'd call it. Like that whole there's a close up picture of it with like all of them, you could kind of see everybody. Like there's so much action and movement going on, like the one guy taking out the sniper rifle, the one guy just kind of like smoking, the guy holding two bombs. Like there's so much character and action going on in just like that little space. Even though, yeah, it's a very static looking model because it's kind of just a floating fucking balloon, but like inside, like where all the action's happening, like there's just so much going on. It's a very cool piece. Um, yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they
Again,
got
like
like a little
Ryan said,
swivel gun going too in there. Yeah,
yeah, like there's so much going on in there. It like almost tells its own story of like just what those guys are doing, and they a lot of them have like a very like jovial look to them too. So it's like they're just having like a good time, just kind of being like crazy, chaotic people, like throwing bombs, shooting guns, smoking cigarettes. Like it's such a cool fucking like little piece.
yeah,
But also like Ryan said, yeah, it's gonna be a nightmare to keep this thing vertical. You're probably gonna have to like weight down the base a bit too.
yeah.
Um,
Or maybe build up your base and have it rest on like actual basing stuff and not like a flight stand.
for sure. Or even just like if the base is big enough, I actually that's not in the picture you shared. Um, just use like real stone.
Sure.
If you put like scenic elements on it, like that'll help kind of keep it from toppling. But yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
hard to keep it from being knocked over a lot.
Yeah. Also, hard model to fly from one place to the other for an event.
Yeah, you'll need like its own special case for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. The hot air balloon. Let's talk about the big stone statues, the Cathayan Sentinels. Sentinels? What are your thoughts on this one, Ryan?
I think they look really cool. They're just really big. Like they're big, they're chunky. They appear to have different ways you can finish their exterior that tie
Yeah.
into the whole terracotta versus warpstone versus jade. I think is the three different.
Granite, I think, is the third one. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, but like all of that ties in. I didn't see if there was alternate weapons for them or if they just all have this double-bladed
Guandao.
spear axe thing, Darth Maul lightsaber.
Yeah.
Um, but that's cool. But no, like they're a very characterful model. Uh, they're very big. I'm sure that they will, absolutely wreck things with the giant stat line. Might even be one of the first giant style behemoth things to have full plate. Now that I think about it,
Well, I mean, if something's going to be full plate, it's going to be the thing that's literally just stone.
Correct. Again, I'm also a huge fan of the YOLO, it's just radioactive version.
That's
Um,
the warp stone one. Yeah.
yeah, because that just amuses me to no end. Like, oh, we found this giant deposit of fantasy uranium. What did we do? Build a statue out of it.
A living
Then wondered
statue.
why
Yeah.
everyone in the village got cancer.
Yeah.
Uh, so no, like I love that I love that it's three kits in one, or really almost three units in one, because
Yeah,
of the different ways you can employ it. I feel like with the limited army construction, probably every Cathay army is going to have two of these.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah. So you mentioned one. So there's one version. I think it's the warpstone version that reduces. Well, logically, it's the warpstone version that reduces toughness. Then there's the granite one has better saves, and then the terracotta one is has regent saves. Is how that works out. Andrew,
Uh,
what are your thoughts on these big honking bad boys?
I really like them. I would have kind of liked to see more of them going down this route though. So like one of the things you think of, I guess, like of ancient China and sort of I guess like modern finds of it is like all those terracotta statues that they're finding in tombs and things there.
Yeah,
Um, it would have been cool if they leaned into this just a little more. So like yeah, it's awesome they have like the giant one, but maybe if they had sort of regular human size or like ogre size ones as well, and sort of
yeah.
have
The
like
little
have that kind of theme run throughout the army. I
yeah,
think it would have been a really cool touch. Maybe that's like low hanging fruit though, and that's why they opted to just go with like the one big guy. But even for just like something that's sort of a single color statue, like there's so much going on with it. Like all the little cracks and damages from like previous battles. There's good movement for it, like it's walking forward. It's got its weapon going. It
yeah.
kind of has like a hunch forward look, and it's kind of like looking up as it goes. Like it's very menacing. So it's a really cool model. Um, I'm really interested to see like kind of like what the rules are for it.
that would actually be a really cool way to paint Jade Warriors. Like just make like
Like
an
make them all
army of
stone.
terracotta constructs.
Yeah, that'd be
Sure.
badass.
Sure. And then you can have the big one. Like, there's gonna be so many memes of like never talk to my son again. There with like the massive fucking
Yes.
terracotta. Yeah, I really like this model. I think it's sick. I think you're going to see them in every Cathayan army. I think they're the only thing in the army that'll paint up like a charm. Frankly, so that's nice. I like that there's three versions of it, so that you could do whatever you want with it. I'm kind of like with Ryan on this one. I think reducing toughness as an aura thing or as a when you're in combat with this model thing is especially with the size of its base is probably really is actually really good in this game. So that is some real good stuff. I'm yeah, love this guy. Love this guy. Apparently he's massive too. They mentioned in the stream he's probably like so I'm thinking some of the mega gargants from AOS size, just like an enormous statue. So yeah, I'm there for him. Okay, Andrew, the Shugengan Lord on Longma. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. This one's like the first miss for me.
Okay.
Um, it feels too much like the I think it's just the paint scheme killing it for me, but the fish elves from AOS.
Oh yeah. The Idenith Deepkin.
Yeah, because it's like I don't know, just like a big seahorse in my head with a dude on top.
Sure.
Um, so I don't know, kind of a miss for me at least. I know Ryan seems to like it, but I would have preferred seeing more like the dragon aesthetics on this thing as opposed to sort of that weird beaky face.
Yeah, I think that's really a paint job thing. I'm looking at it like I'm zoomed in right now, and I think it does have the dragon aesthetic. They just decided to paint it differently. Like the beak thing, it's all one material, right? So they just decided to make his nose orange for whatever freaking reason.
All right.
But yeah, yeah.
So
Sorry,
maybe I'll
keep
come
going.
back Yeah, maybe I'll come back and like change my mind when we see more paint jobs of it. But right now, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I think I agree with you. I don't think the paint job is necessarily the most flattering. I guess just from a game perspective, so this guy, like the Shu Gengan Lord, apparently is a level 1 through 4 caster that you can upgrade. And there's like they actually said a hero or lord level character, which is interesting because that doesn't exist anymore in the game, that distinction. But parking that long-standing debate for a little bit here. I'm not sure where he's going to fit game wise with the army. If he's a lord level character, you're probably looking at like quite a pricey piece, and then you kind of are missing the attendant unit that he would logically go with. So when I talked a few episodes ago about potential units for this faction, the Longma Riders were like one that I thought was going to show up now that we just have the Lord, but he would fit, I think, very well in with that unit. Unfortunately, on his own in an army that looks like it's a bit of a stay-at-home force, with the artillery and stuff. I'm not and like the balloon, which presumably is not very fast, and the giant statues, which are also presumably not very fast. So I'm not too sure. Like, I think he's going to struggle a little bit to find a place and a play style in the army, but we'll have to see how that shakes out. I think paint job. You're right, Andrew. There's probably not doing it justice. I think with a different paint job is probably a little bit better though. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this guy?
Again, I think he looks cool. I actually couldn't give two shits about the rider. I like the Longma, and again, I'm seeing past the what I've now learned is orange nose. My color blindness is crippling. Um, but like I like that he's scaly. He's got horns. It's a very cool creature.
Yeah.
And again, I kind of want to slap a duke on one. Um, so that might be a thing. But anyway, I do kind of agree with your point about him not having a niche in the army, like being a fly pro monstrous cavalry model. He has nothing to run with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Jade Lancers are probably core, so he can at least run near,
Sure.
um, which works well enough.
Yeah.
Just take 20 Jade Lancers.
Yeah.
So, and additionally, like aside from your named special character, I think this is the only wizard option in the characters they have. So this very well may be kind of the default general, unless you want to spring for the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing. Um, I'm hoping maybe it comes with some like alternate head and weapon options. Otherwise, it would be a very fixed plastic model.
Yeah. I can't see it not having like some different weapon and head options at a very minimum. And I think there's going to be alternate pieces for the Longma too, like different wing positions, for instance, and a different headdress. Or it's not a headdress. There would like
Yeah, the different
yeah.
antlers and probably a
Yeah.
different chest piece I could totally see.
Yeah, and instead of like Zoidberg tentacles or whatever is going on there, yeah,
Oh god.
yeah, good stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, last but not least, the dragon. Actually,
Second to
not
last.
last, second to last. Miao Ying, the storm dragon. Okay, I'll kick us off on this one. I don't hate it. I'm not entirely sold on this dragon. I think you were talking about it earlier, Andrew. Sorry, Ryan, and you said like it's cool that it looks like a person and not just like an animal, and that like it's got armor, it's got like some of the facial features that you could see on Miao Ying when she transforms into a person. You could see sort of mirrored on the dragon, like the facial expression and like I guess tiara or whatever that is, like headdress that she's got going on. That's super cool. I'm just not convinced, and this is probably like the angle of the picture, but the angle at which I see the dragon when I look at the pictures that GW posted is kind of something doesn't sit well with my brain when I look at it. But I think that will change when we get different sort of angle shots on it. It's cool to see a dragon with armor too. I like that it's kind of in that, or it's not kind of, it's absolutely in that like Chinese New Year, long stringy dragon, like wavy dragon type body construct. I think that is interesting. I'm happy that they went with the dragon can transform to caster and back and forth. Like that is iconic to this faction in the Total War game, anyways. So I think that is also a cool thing. I'm struggling to see when I would want to take a mage on foot versus when I would just want a big dragon, but we'll have to see what benefits come with one or the other in game. And the last thing I will say is I have a sneaking suspicion that this kit will actually have like an alternate head and potentially alternate armor, maybe plates or something to build it as like a generic dragon lord caster, because there are many different dragons in Cathay, not just Miao Ying. There's like all the offspring of the celestial dragon, as it were. So potentially we could see like a generic version as another lord option. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a really cool concept. I'm really excited to see how they've worked their way out of the rules conundrum of having this model with differing base sizes that could zap back and forth, presumably between both. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I actually really like it, but as I was saying, like I like the humanity of the dragon
Yeah,
while it's still being both very much a GW dragon, because GW dragons have also been the long,
yeah,
kind of stringy type, uh, but also being a very Eastern dragon. It doesn't have wings, etc. So there's that.
yeah. That
Um,
face is great on the dragon too. There, when you zoom in, like, and that thing will paint like a charm because it's so expressive. Sorry, yeah,
yeah. No, but that's like I really think they nailed that. I like the character Miao Ying herself, like the human form. She looks
yeah,
really cool, floating on her little pile of rocks
yeah,
that are tactically holding her up in the air.
yeah,
Um, so the gust of wind elevating her cape and her hair.
yeah.
Um, so like all that's really cool. Um, we're all kind of counter a point is I actually don't think there will be a generic dragon. Like
Okay,
they've indicated that it seems to be like Miao Ying has been sent as the emissary to the old world with a force, like an elite quote unquote force from Cathay. Um, hence the things we see in the box.
sure, yeah,
So it would be like, to me, it seems like they are not trying to give us an army that's representative of all of Cathay or an army that could be created in home country Cathay. They're very much just leaning into, here's what we're giving you that could have been on this boat that sailed
yeah,
to not the Baltics,
yeah.
to go defend not Prague, um,
Yeah,
from
this is the Expeditionary Force, the Cathayan Expeditionary Force.
right. And so, like, if the narrative is tied to Miao Ying, I think it would be counter to their own narrative to be like, you could take Miao Ying or any of the dragon children, but that's just me. But
Sure.
you, you also may not be wrong that like the kit might facilitate that, but we may not see it in the rules initially.
Hmm.
So that's like, we could both be right. Um,
We'll see. Yeah.
but as to the like switching, in my head, the only thing that makes sense to me for why you would switch back and forth, and like the switching back and forth would have to be something that occurs in the start of turn phase.
Yeah.
The only thing I think of is that the dragon is somehow like unable to cast or a lower level caster. Because otherwise, why would you ever be the person, the human form?
Yeah.
Like, so that's to me like from if I was trying to make up game design for this, would be you can do level 4 things as the human form, but you can do like rip people to shreds, but are only a level 1 caster or something as a dragon.
Yeah.
But that I got nothing. Um,
Yeah, I think you're right though that it has to happen in the strategy phase, because otherwise, like it's just too awkward to do in movement, and you can abuse it, quote unquote, by moving forwards just through base size increase. So
yeah,
yeah.
maybe
No,
it's a
that's
leadership test. Maybe it's a willpower activity to switch between them.
a switch. Yeah, I think she's got enough willpower just looking at the model to control her her form at will. But yeah, Andrew, what are your thoughts about the dragon?
I really like her. You guys covered sort of the main points. There, there's a really cool, um, how would I word this? Like both the human and the dragon form, like has like the nice same elements on both, so it's clear that it's the same
Yeah,
model. They, it, there's a lot of character in both. She looks very elfish, but I think that's more just the aesthetic of like a noble, I guess, fantasy Chinese type thing. Um, I wouldn't even begin to speculate how they would make it work for her. Like, say she's bunkered in a unit to switch to dragon form. Or, like, Ryan said, why would you ever not be a dragon if there wasn't some sort of downside?
yeah,
Um, uh, or maybe it's like something that happens later on in the game. Like, if she while she's in human form, if she takes damage or something, then she kind of like rages out and becomes the dragon later on in the game. I don't know. Um, But yeah, very cool model, very characterful. Um, I think I'm with Ryan here though, where it probably won't be like a multi-unit kit. Like it's probably just gonna be her. Um, and maybe I'm wrong, but it was my understanding of like the lore that they put out was there's only like 12 dragon children to begin with, right? Or am I?
I forget the
Is it?
actual number, but there's not an infinite number. You're right.
No, it's like super low, I thought, and they all kind of had their own role within the kingdom. Um, so like really there there wouldn't be like a generic dragon to begin with. Like I think they'd all have to be sort of named characters for that faction. But yeah, I dig it. Um, Fits very well with the theme of the army and everything. It's a cool model. It's nice to see like more of that Asian style dragon as opposed to classic European style dragons being introduced to the game. Although I guess it shares some design elements with like elven dragons, which are longer, but still a very cool model. I dig it.
Awesome. So let's move on to the last set of models that we got here. The Game Masters on foot and mounted, and we'll go right back. Actually, let's go to Ryan for this one.
Sweet. So this is the kind of classic old world shaping up, one mounted, one dismounted lord. Empire's got one. I think orcs have one. Question mark.
Yes, they do.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but like it's nice because it lets you make like a foot lord or a mounted BSB or a foot BSB and a mounted lord. As I literally turn and look at my Empire BSB captain on horse, maybe that I made. Um, so no, it's very cool. Like these are the models to me that are like super evocative of Mulan.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the armor, the posing, everything's just giving me very strong Donny Osmond vibes. So
Yeah.
fine. I love the like Longma-esque armor on the horse.
Yeah.
And the cool dragon banner with the lantern on it. Like they're just super characterful. They're gonna stand out in the units you attach them to. So yeah, it's the gate master and magistrate, or are they both gate masters? I can't remember.
They're both gate masters. The magistrate, I think we only
Yeah.
saw him in the balloon right now.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like it gives you a guy you can put with your foot dudes and a guy you can put with your horse dudes. The only weird miss I'll say is I don't understand why the mounted one's shield doesn't look like any other shield that occurs in the entire army.
Yeah.
I just find that to be weird from like a design perspective. But other than that, they're really nice characterful models.
Yep. Agreed. Andrew, what are your thoughts on these guys?
It's nice to see them continuing to make these sort of guy on foot, guy mounted kit. I assume there's probably way more like options in that kit as well than what we're seeing on the two built models. So you can kind of build them how you want, kit them out how you want, but also give yourself like a bunch of extra cool bits you can put on like unit champions or sergeants and stuff. So yeah, just that I like seeing. I like how it definitely ties back into the overall aesthetic of the army, but also being that little bit extra, so you can tell that these guys are somewhat important in the army itself. Like Ryan said, the helmet of being designed like the Logma's face, it stands out from the rest of the Jade Lancer guys. So even if you put him in that unit, he's gonna stand out from the rest. Very cool. Again, kind of I was a big Dynasty Warriors player, like in high school and shit. So like this all kind of just reminds me of that, like those kind of over the top characters, and very cool.
Yeah, I definitely
Kevin?
agree with the whole Dynasty Warriors vibes of these guys here, and generally a lot of the army, frankly. So yeah, no, I think these are cool. I think these are some of my favorite models. Also, I tend to like the sort of generic leader models a lot that GW produces, and I think these ones are pretty good. Like the Gate Master on foot can also be a BSB, obviously, which is the configuration we're seeing him as right now. And they did mention again a second time, actually, in the preview that these guys could be hero or lord level characters, which is also interesting. And they did mention that they're masters of defensive warfare and discipline in your armies. So we'll have to see how that sort of translates into game terms. But definitely, I think at least initially, their roles is going to be to accompany either your Jade Lancers or your Jade Warriors to buff them up and provide a little bit more character hitting power to the unit. But I love the models. I think they're really good. Those will be fun to paint for sure. So good stuff. And I will say I like this color scheme more. I'm not sure about the orange, but the red and the black together, I think works really well. And I'd probably be tempted to paint my army more in this scheme for sure. Okay, cool. So that wraps up. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I think you're reading too deep into their saying lords and hero level characters. I think it's more just like a colloquialism to differentiate between like 4 wound characters and 2 wound characters. Because like I say the
I
same
agree.
thing. Like I don't think it's any sort of sneaky way of saying like, hey, by the way, there's going to be a big shift in the game.
No,
again.
no,
We're going to bring back
no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that term doesn't exist anymore, but we all continue to use it. It's just funny that now GW's using it also. I don't think they're going to shift in any way, shape, or form. It's just it's a thing sometimes we talk about, and I've talked about with Brian, but it is what it is. Okay, cool. So let's wrap this one up. We've gone through all the reviews. All the previews. Three armies. So thanks for sticking along for the entire ride there, listeners at home. It was a pleasure, as per usual, to be there with you guys. I'm looking forward to attending some events here over the next few months. If you want to participate in CHTT and would be willing to replace me on short-ish notice, please reach out. That would be great. Otherwise, I'll be at Danny's event 2 weeks after for CTC, which should be a lot of fun. Ryan, anything you want to shout out on the way out?
Not really. No, just pay attention to all the events in your local areas. Go out, support the game, and if you happen to be relatively proximal to Ottawa, please consider coming to any of the events I listed earlier in the episode.
Perfect. Awesome. Andrew, anything you want to shout out on the way out?
No, I got nothing.
All right, perfect. So thank you, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll catch you next episode.
Bye.